Hey ladies and gentlemen, Steven here from Redolessence and welcome back to another video. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it and I hope that this video finds you well. And in today's episode, we're going to be discussing 5 Tom Ford private blend fragrances that I don't own and which one I think I'm going to purchase next. So make sure to stay tuned. Now, before I begin this video of top 5 Tom Ford private blend fragrances that I do not own, and I'm also going to be letting you know which one I feel like I'm going to purchase next, depending on which is my favorite from these 5, I do want to mention that if you are a fan of fragrance-related content, if you like fragrance reviews or top lists or videos, anything having to do with fragrances here on YouTube, please do consider supporting this channel by subscribing to it. All you have to do is click on that red button in the corner. And of course, while you're at it, please be sure to enable notifications by clicking on that bell icon. This way, whenever I do upload these videos, they will be delivered straight to your feed. You never need to worry about missing any of my future uploads. So I think to start things off, it goes without saying that I'm a huge fan of Tom Ford. I have so many Tom Ford fragrances. I probably have over 15, to be honest, many from the signature line, Noir Extreme, Grey Vetiver, Metallique, so on and so forth. But I also have tons of private blends, well over a dozen. Everything from Oud Wood, Noir de Noir, Tobacco Vanille, Tuscan Leather. I also have Ombre Leather, which is in the signature collection. I have Beau de Jour. I just have tons of Tom Ford fragrances. It's a brand that I absolutely love. And there have been some fragrances that I wanted to rediscover just because I haven't either, smelled them in some time, or maybe I did smell them recently, but I want to smell them side by side with some other Tom Ford fragrances so I can pretty much make up my mind and try to figure out what I'm going to purchase next, depending on how they smell to me now, the season that we're entering, and also what my budget allows. And these are some incredible fragrances, I must say. And I also have to give a very special thank you to Raquel. She is the rep over at the Tom Ford counter at Saks Fifth Avenue. She was the one who was actually kind enough to provide me with these 5 samples, not so that I can do a video on it or anything like that. I don't think she's expecting that. I just wanted to give her a shout out. She is also an Instagram personality. I'm going to link her Instagram account down below. She is a fantastic person. She and I have chatted quite a bit on Instagram, and she's always willing to help someone out. So if you do live within the United States and you want to purchase something from Saks Fifth Avenue and you want that attention to detail, she's a fantastic person. Please don't hesitate to get in touch with her. All of her information is down below. By the way, this video is not sponsored by Tom Ford or Saks Fifth Avenue. I'm simply just discussing 5 fragrances that I have samples of and which one I plan on purchasing when this video is up. So the first one that I want to talk about is called Soleil Nige, and this one of course is a little bit more tropical smelling in my opinion. And I think this one had everything to do with the snow and the sun hitting it, and you almost find yourself in this really cooling environment. But there's also something about this fragrance that smells a bit floral and rather tropical. And to be honest with you, as much as I really like the way that this fragrance smells, I feel like it's something that my wife would appreciate a little bit more. She loves Soleil Blanc. I had to purchase Soleil Blanc for my wife, and she has been wearing that fragrance like crazy. And also I should mention that she wears that fragrance all year round. So she doesn't restrict usage to a particular season or occasion. It's just an all-around fragrance that she loves to wear. And Soleil Nige is not as tropical or as floral or as suntan lotiony as Soleil Blanc. This one I feel is a little bit more subtle, but it still falls in the line of the types of fragrances that my wife would really enjoy. And so for that reason, I don't necessarily think that given the opportunity to purchase one, if I would necessarily purchase Soleil Nige, but nevertheless, that's besides the point. I do find that Soleil Nige is a really nice fragrance, and of course it's found in the white bottle. I know this one. The next one is, yes, Vernis Fatale. I'm smelling it, I'm like, I know this one. Okay, so Vernis Fatale is this really unique incensey vanilla type of a fragrance. And it kind of reminds me a little bit, if I can be honest, of Vernis 44 by Le Labo, which is a composition by Alberto Morillas. And that one is also a little spicy. It has that incensey quality in there as well. And this one also has a little bit of that going on in here, but the vanilla that's used in here, it almost smells like this sort of clay smooth type of a vanilla. And I know that that's probably not the best descriptor, but it doesn't smell confectionery, it doesn't smell sugary. It has more of a smooth, dusty quality about it that I really, really like. And if you've been watching my channel, you know that I'm a huge fan of gourmand fragrances, and this one is no exception. I love vanilla-based fragrances. I know I've reviewed some recently on my channel, as a matter of fact, but Vernis Fatale is a fragrance, and the name of course translates to fatal vanilla. It is a fragrance that I can see myself adding to my wardrobe, adding to my olfactory wardrobe. So I think this is the type of fragrance that would do really well in the winter. Not to suggest that this is a beast mode performer, but typically when I think of vanilla heavy fragrances, especially those that are counterparted with notes like incense, I do find that it's probably a little bit more leaning for the colder weather, and I would more than likely find myself wearing this one in the winter time, as opposed to say the summer, the spring, or even the fall. Although I think it would do really well in the fall, I think the winter time is really when you know, the notes that are used in here would sync up with my sentiments for what should be worn during that sort of a climate. The next one is Rose Prick, right? And of course, I've mentioned this in the past, Tom Ford really has a knack for releasing names of fragrances that are, you know, kind of salacious and they have innuendos, and I don't think Rose Prick is any exception. But man, this is such an awesome fragrance. This is the perfect balance between a really smooth and subtle and wispy rose, but also a really deep, jammy and moist rose, if I can use that as an adjective. This is right in between. It also has a little bit of a sweet vibe. Some people have said like a bubblegum vibe. It might even have a bit of an undertone of patchouli in here as well. But ultimately, it's a really well done rose fragrance. And I think the point behind this fragrance is that it not only wanted to convey the beautiful nature of the rose, but also the sharpness of the prick. So they needed to incorporate a bit of an aggressive nature to this one as well. And you can almost look at those darker and more green verdant undertones as serving as that rough around the edges sort of a vibe that you're going to find in this fragrance. I think this one is really good for the spring and the autumn, perhaps not the summer because it's a rose of a heavier variety. I do find that there are some even heavier roses like Noir de Noir, which I would be more inclined to wear in the wintertime, but I think this would be perfect for the autumn. And then I would probably wear something like Noir de Noir for the wintertime. But very well done rose. Obviously, it has become, or it will become, a benchmark rose fragrance in the years to come. You have my word on that, and I know it's going to do really, really well. And it's going to be one of those fragrances that we will look back on it 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and we'll say, oh yeah, that's one of the flagship fragrances from the brand, when it really isn't, right? It's one of the more current releases, but I really feel like it's going to garner that reputation. The next one is Guerlain Dardan, and this one is arguably the more masculine fragrance from everything in this list. A lot of people would be inclined to think that Rose Prick is feminine and maybe the vanilla offering is a little bit feminine as well. Soleil Nige kind of has this gender bender quality about it. But Guerlain Dardan is certainly a little bit more on the masculine side. So the thing about this one, and I was given the option to purchase either this fragrance or Redolessence. And for a green, verdant, earthy type of a fragrance, I obviously went with Redolessence and I purchased that fragrance instead. It has this piney, resinous quality that really reminds me of the winter holidays, and it's such a fantastic fragrance to wear when the weather gets cold outside. And I personally prefer that one over this one just for the lasting power alone and the way that it performs on my skin. So you have to keep in mind there is this element of subjectivity, right? You have to wear it for yourself, see how it performs on you. But for me, as much as I do enjoy this one and I like how it has this sort of classic gentlemanly green vibe, not necessarily in the vein of like a lavender extreme, and I feel like a lot of people often associate the smell of lavender with the more masculine, mature, gentlemanly fragrances, you know, perhaps, you know, Zeno by Davidoff or any number of other, you know, lavender heavy releases that were out in the 80s and 90s. But In the case of this one, I do feel like it smells far more modern and contemporary. Not even trying to suggest that it has lavender in here, because I don't think it's really a star player in this perfume, but I do find that Vernis for that style of fragrances is more to my liking. So that's the one that I actually ended up purchasing to add to my ever-growing list of private blends. And the last one here is Lost Cherry. So this is one of those fragrances, if you don't mind, I do want to give myself a fresh spray, because that opening with the cherry and the almond is to die for. Oh my God. Yeah, so it kind of has like this cherry liqueur opening. You have that sharpness of almond, and it's such a perfect complement to the cherry that's in here. It's warm, it's a little syrupy, it's a little sticky and resinous, but it's fruity and it's tart and it's really juicy as well. It has those subtle gourmand nuances. It just puts me straight into the mindset of autumn, and it's the type of fragrance that I would love to smell like in the autumn. It really puts you in a certain state of mind, and there's such a beautiful emotional connection that people have with fragrances, and I feel like this is one that pulls at those strings a little bit more forcibly than some of the other fragrances, where I don't think that there was this gut or visceral reaction when I smelled Guerlain Dardan. And the same thing can be said about Soleil Nige. It's a really wonderful fragrance. It's very well pieced together. I can see the promise that it has, and I have no doubt that it's going to be successful. But as far as fragrances that cater to my personal taste, Lost Cherry is it for me. Amazing. It's absolutely amazing. I can tell why it has received such a reputation, and of course this is another one of the innuendo fragrances that, like Rose Prick and Effing Fabulous, and of course the more recent one. But in the case of this fragrance, I love it. I love Lost Cherry. I think it's a benchmark cherry perfume, and I know I mentioned that before, but I do think that it's a fantastic fragrance. If you do have the opportunity to get your nose on any of these fragrances, I would recommend it. Of course, there are other private blend fragrances that I don't own, Lavender Extreme being one of them. Believe it or not, I don't have Tobacco Oud or Tobacco Oud Intense. There are a lot of fragrances, Arabian Wood, but these are the 5 that I've had on my radar. Once again, a very special thank you to Raquel from Saks Fifth Avenue over in New York City for providing me with these gratis samples. I really do appreciate it. She probably wasn't expecting me to do a video or anything, but she is such a sweetheart. She's such an incredible person. She really takes her time to entertain a bunch of conversations, and I think she is a stellar representative for the brand. If you have the opportunity, I'm going to leave her information down below, her Instagram handle, as well as the phone number for Saks Fifth Avenue. If you are looking to make a purchase in the United States, I don't believe they ship outside of the United States, but if you are looking to make a purchase within the United States, I know she can offer you with some really superb service. So I'm going to leave her information down below, and if for some reason you do happen to call her up, just let her know that Steven sent you. Thanks again for watching. I really do appreciate that, everybody. This was my list of 5 Tom Ford fragrances that I don't own, and the one that I think I'm going to be purchasing is Lost Cherry, and a close second would also be Vernis Fatale, although I really love Rose Prick, although I have some other rose dominant fragrances that I find myself wearing quite often. So I think that if I had to pick a second option, it would probably be Vernis Fatale, especially considering that unique incense note that's in there. But in any case, I hope you took something of value from this video. If you did, I would really appreciate it if you could support this channel by subscribing to it. All you have to do is click on that red button in the corner, and of course, while you're at it, please be sure to enable notifications by clicking on that bell icon. This way, whenever I do publish these videos, they will get delivered straight to your feed. You never need to worry about missing any of my future uploads. Thanks again for watching. I love you all, and we'll see you next time. Bye.